Morning, everybody, and welcome back to your Lunch Break Live. My name's Ivana if you are new here, and if you are not, thank you for coming back. There is some big news that happened last week that we did not get around to talking about, I should say, and understandably so. We had a very newsy week last week, especially towards the end of the week, but I thought today is Monday and it would be a good day to recap some of the guidance that the CDC released about dropping its mask requirements and also talk about where Alabama stands in terms of coronavirus cases and coronavirus vaccine distribution. So we've got a lot to talk about. I've got a lot of data in front of me that we are going to look at together on the screen here. And let's just go ahead and get started with that. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments here and I will be keeping an eye on them. So first, let's pull up this graph from the Alabama Department of Public Health, and this shows the amount of vaccine doses administered in Alabama. Now, we know that from this dashboard, we know that there have been 2,783,329 doses administered. Now, that means those doses are vials of the coronavirus 19 vaccines that have been given to Alabamians, have been injected. So those are already off the shelves. Those are gone. We know, again, number of people that have been vaccinated, because keep in mind, 2 of those shots require 2 doses. So the number of people who have completed their vaccine series, which means that they are fully vaccinated, is 1,280,421. Slightly higher amount of people who have received maybe 1 dose and they're waiting on their second dose for that Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. We know with Johnson & Johnson, you only need that 1 dose. So this gives you a little bit of a look at where Alabama is standing in its vaccine distribution. Something, too, that we should note here is that UAB has run several mass vaccination sites across central Alabama, really in the Birmingham region. We know that Hoover Met site, they are closing tomorrow, actually, May the 18th. That AOH Cathedral of the Cross, that's the Center Point location, they're closing next week, May the 28th. And the Parker High School location is closing in June the 18th. This just goes to show we know Alabama has seen some declining vaccination rates, as in people are not as excited, it seems, to get that vaccine as they were in the beginning. You can see on this bar graph here that this has got at the very bottom, if you can't read it, these are the months. And then that line on the left of the screen, that is the number of doses administered. So this really shows kind of a time progression of the interest in people who are lining up to get those vaccines. We see those highest graphs are between March and April. And then you see after kind of mid-April towards where we are now, which is mid-May, hard to believe, that graph really takes a turn downhill. According to a source at UAB, the doctor said that demand has dropped about 75% has dropped about 75% at its vaccine clinics. Now, again, they operate several vaccine clinics, but they have seen a huge decline there. So looking through some of the comments here, we're going to get to the case numbers in a minute, but it's important to note that these CDC mask requirements changed late last week. So anything we see in case numbers right now is not necessarily a reflection of that change. Just wanted to go ahead and give that kind of disclaimer here. Now, as you can see here from this dashboard, this shows us, again, we've looked at this a million times since the beginning of this pandemic last year, but right now we're seeing Alabama is standing at 540,267 cases. Now, that's a total number since the state began tallying them here. We are leaving a link here to our coronavirus page, and it's kind of a landing page. It's AL.com/coronavirus. It's where you can find all of our coronavirus news that I'm speaking about today. You can find more information that we're going to go over in a minute, including CDC mask guidelines, the drop in a lot of those guidelines. You can see more information about the decline in the people lining up to get their vaccines and more. So that link is posted here. Now, again, this is where we're standing in case totals. Again, that CDC vaccination, not vaccination, but CDC max requirements for fully vaccinated people, that was announced at the end of last week. So these numbers are not really going to reflect any of that. We know it takes about 2 weeks to see a reflection in case numbers after we get different either requirements or lack of requirements there. This is a map. If you tell me if there's a county you want to look at, we can look at. But this is a map. This blue map is page 4 on the Alabama Department of Public Health dashboard for coronavirus news, data, etc. So this is page 4 if you are looking at that yourself or if you want to check it out later. But the color of the blue on this county map shows the amount of cases. Now, the lighter the blue, the fewer the cases. The darker the blue, the more cases. So as you can see, Jefferson County, most populated county in Alabama, we have here, you click on it, you get the data showing that there have been 79,879 cases. There have been 1,529 people die of coronavirus in Jefferson County. So that is just some of the information you can see on this map here. Again, darker the blue, the more cases, lighter the blue, the less amount of cases. Now, one thing I want to note here as well is that if you have been following this dashboard, if you've been following these case numbers, you might see that that case total is a little bit higher than you might expect if you looked at it maybe late last week. And that is because over the weekend, the Alabama Department of Public Health added quite a few cases to its total. But something we need to note is that is not necessarily due to a surge in cases, but it is due to a backlog in data. So again, if you looked at that number late last week and you're seeing this and you think it's a lot higher, that is why. It's a backlog in data, not necessarily a surge. And there was another instance of that middle of last week where the department added over 1,000 cases. Again, that's backlog of data, not a surge. So if you're keeping up with this and you see those number changes, I can understand why that might be concerning. But I just wanted to go ahead and make that clear here. It's not really exciting to say that there was a backlog of data and that's why that number is higher, but that is what we're hearing from the department, and it should be noted so you do not believe there's a surge happening that you have not heard about. Now, questions going through here as well. If you have a question about your specific county, please let me know. Otherwise, we're going to talk about those CDC mask requirement changes. We know the CDC has said that fully vaccinated people, and they consider fully vaccinated people to be those who have been past the 2-week mark of receiving either their second vaccine of the Moderna or Pfizer or getting their one Johnson & Johnson vaccine after 2 weeks. That's when the agency considers you fully vaccinated. They have dropped requirements saying that those people need to either mask or stay socially distant. Now, here's a quote I'm going to read from my paper here from the CDC's guidance changes. They say that fully vaccinated people can, quote, resume activities you did before the pandemic without a mask or without staying 6 feet apart, end quote. So that just shows a huge change in that guidance last week. Now, since then, we've heard several retailers, including big box stores that we often call them here in Alabama, have dropped those mask requirements for fully vaccinated consumers. Those places include Target, Walmart, Sam's Club, Costco, Trader Joe's, Publix, and Starbucks. Big retailers dropping those. I've got Christy chiming in here saying, can some businesses in Jefferson County make us wear a mask? So good question, Christy. From my knowledge, Birmingham is the only municipality in the state to still have an active mask requirement. Believe that's through the next week or so. That's coming to an end here. So that city can require a mask in the city. Anywhere else in the state is not under an active mask restriction, mask ordinance. So it's just Birmingham. It's not all of Jefferson County. And that mask order continues, I believe, through the next week. I will find the exact date and put it here. That's the only city that has one right now. So businesses can still ask you to put on a mask when you go in, and Birmingham is the only one under an ordinance. Important to note, when that ordinance was enacted, I believe last month, there were comments made at that city council meeting where it was voted on that Birmingham police are not actively enforcing that ordinance unless there is a call made by somebody kind of on maybe a disorderly conduct type of situation. But they are not actually going out and enforcing that rule. Again, Target, Walmart, Sam's Club, Costco, Trader Joe's, Publix, and Starbucks, all among those big box retailers who have dropped their mask requirements for fully vaccinated people. A lot of those locations, or a lot of those stores have locations, I should say, in the Jefferson County area. So good question, Christy. Now, somebody asked me about the case number in Wilcox County. Let me pull that up for you. This map does not actually have the county names on the map, so I'm having to look at it in front of me before I click on a million different locations. I believe this is Wilcox County here. And that right now has got, that has had throughout the pandemic, 1,274 cases, 30 people died there. So that is Wilcox County. I know somebody had asked about that county. Again, if you want to look at this map, you can see it. It's from the Alabama Department of Public Health, and they have what they are calling their COVID dashboard hub. That's what they call it. And it's got a bunch of different data there. Can be a little bit hard to navigate if that's not something you do on the daily basis, like most of us probably do not. But they have information on your vaccines distribution. They have information on death totals and case numbers that they started tallying at the beginning of this pandemic and where it looks now. But this is the map that is on, I believe it's page 4 of that data and surveillance tab at the top. So click data and surveillance at the top and then tab 4 at the bottom. That gets you to the map I am on right now. Somebody saying that they were kicked out of a store this weekend in Hueytown. Hueytown does not have a mask order that I'm aware of, Christy. But again, businesses can still ask you to put on a mask if that business requires it. So if you're outside on a city street, they're not going to enforce it. But if you are in a business, they can have their own rules there. And I do not believe that City Trends is on our list of places that have dropped those mask requirements. So good point there, Christy. And again, we're going to have all of this information on AL.com/coronavirus for you. And that is just a landing page of all types of different stories. Now, one of those stories you're going to see there is a story about how the majority of cases in Alabama, active coronavirus cases, not total, but active ones right now, are due to variants. That is some information we had, some reporting we had that, again, we'll link here. Again, most of those active coronavirus cases are from variants. So we know that so far our existing vaccines, that's Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson, they are fighting against the strains. They are effective against the strains. Of course, that is just as of right now. We never know what's going to happen there in the future. But that strain right now is very common. A variant is very common. Somebody asked about, are things getting better? You know, it's interesting. If you look at these case numbers, I know our data reporter, Ramsey, Archibald, Lita Gore, there's also the Bama Tracker website, David Marquinette. Those people have been looking at these numbers much more than me, multiple times a day. And, they have really, I think, done a great job at totaling the cases and giving us kind of a graph of where we are and where we have been. But kind of something that I go by is on AL.com. Our own Lita Gore for a while was doing daily case updates. You might remember those. It showed the county and then the amount of cases that had been added just overnight in the county. And we were getting crazy numbers from them, especially in January where things really hit a peak. And since things have gotten a little bit better, we have actually stopped those daily updates. So that is just a little bit of an indicator to me that those numbers are looking good. So that's something that, if you don't have the time to go look at this data and look at this dashboard every day, that's kind of a good hint. If you're not getting those daily alerts or those daily stories saying that there's been more than 1,000 cases added, that's good news. You definitely are going to know then it's smaller, and smaller is better at this point and in this instance. Now, somebody had asked, I believe it was Denise, about Chambers County. Let me look up Chambers County for you. I've got my phone in front of me to pull that up, and we will look at the numbers there. I'm going to jump back to this dashboard, and let's pull up Chambers County. So Chambers, I believe, is right over here. That's the only problem with this page map that is frustrating, is that there is not an exact name on the county. But this is Chambers County right here. Chambers County is looking at 3,598 cases. Again, this is overall. This is since the department started recording that data. 123 people died. Chambers County is an area where we saw a really initial surge, initial outbreak at, I guess it was this time last year, the beginning of the pandemic last year. And then they started kind of dropping off. So again, I know it's small and hard to see there, but Chambers County are looking at 3,598 cases. This is total, and 123 people dead of coronavirus. Calhoun County is what you asked for, Denise. That is my fault. I am sorry about that. So we did Chambers, in case anybody's interested in Chambers. Let's look up Calhoun County. And again, I'm pulling that one up on my phone so then we can pull it up here. Let's look at somebody asking about where they can go for free testing. Sherry, we have, I think, that information on AL.com. I will do my best to grab a link for that here when I get off. You gotta do all the things here. I don't have a chance to grab that link, but I will get it for you here in just a minute. So let's look up Calhoun County, because I believe it was Denise that asked about that a few minutes ago, and I gave the wrong county. So Calhoun County is going to be, I believe this is Calhoun County. Let's see. All right, Calhoun County, 14,577 cases. And that's, again, since the beginning of this recording in the pandemic last year. 14,577 cases, 319 dead. That is Calhoun County. Excuse me for the wrong county a minute ago, Denise. Interesting. This is an interesting follow-up that I just want to add. This is from Christy, who said that she was asked to leave a business because of not wearing a mask. And she said, that's why I didn't argue with them. It's their constitutional rights just as much as mine. Christy, very insightful comment there. And yes, that is their business. They do have that right. And you also have the right to walk out. So I appreciate that good comment there. Now, question about the reporting here. This is not from me. This is not from AL.com. This is from the Alabama Department of Public Health. So this is from that public agency. And this is just the data that they are making available on their website. It is not from me. It's not from AL.com. This is only from the state's reporting, from the state's data that I am just sharing here. So this is not data that I have gathered myself. Looking through again, some of these comments again are a lot about testing and a lot about vaccines. So I'm going to flip back to the vaccine distribution tab here. And we'll give one more look at that. And this is interesting because it shows that the doses that have been administered, the kind of rate of those doses. And you can see right now we are at a low in the demand for those vaccines. Currently fully vaccinated people who have completed their series in Alabama, 1,280,421. That is out of 4,162,635 doses that have been delivered to Alabama. So that means doses that have been given to the state to be given to people. And that number about doses administered, that is the number of the shots in arms. Again, that does include first and second dose on those vaccines. So I know this is a lot of information. And again, I know so many of us don't really spend our days going through data like this, and I myself included. That's why I think sometimes it's helpful to get here, break down this data that the state gives us, and kind of find an easier way to look at it. So I hope I did that for you. I hope that helps. Go to AL.com/coronavirus for more information. And please join us tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the end of the Alabama legislative session. So please join us tomorrow for that. Again, getting more questions on testing, vaccines. I will drop all that information here in just a minute. And again, I appreciate you watching, and I hope this information is helpful. So everybody have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.